now going to do section 12, which is attaching the rear leaf springs, which is this section here. First thing to do is to just build the springs and then we attach them to the chassis. I've already taken out all of the parts for this section, and as you can see there's quite a few. Let's get down to it. Going to make two of these, very similar to the first springs, the front springs that we did. Sorry, I'm trying to think what I was doing and talk to you at the same time. I can't multitask, I'm afraid. Those are going to go over there like that. And the spring goes in. It's a little hole in the bottom there that it recesses into. Locks into position there. This plate goes underneath. Note the little ridges go upwards. That holds the spring in place. Metal plate. And 4 of the MA18 lock nuts. Now these are the thin ones. I can just put that down for a minute. In the Tamiya kits you need to be aware of this. Those are the thick ones. I know you can see that, but there's the thin one. It's literally half the thickness of those. So it's the thin ones that go on here. Try and turn it around so you can see what I'm doing. Straight on with that one. That's a good start, first thing in the morning. Famous last words. Do. Once I've done this one, I should probably speed the film up a bit so you can razz through the second one. I'll only be repeating what I'm doing here. Come on. Just got that one twisted slightly. There we go. We'll use the Tamiya wrench to just pull things together. It's possible to distort this, so make sure you pull them down evenly. Over to the other side. Excuse me sniffing, I have a little bit of a cold at the moment. Who doesn't? Oh, come on. One of these days I'll get myself a better tool than this for doing these things that make life a little bit easier. Almost there. Amazing how much it'll pull out. There we go. We got there in the end. No thread lock or anything like that. I know you can notice there that is slightly twisted. So what we'll just do is just back them off a minute after I've just done them up. So that hopefully we can just turn that a little bit. There we go, just felt that go. If anything, it's probably slightly twisted the other way now. Just slight. No, still out fractionally, not happy with that. Again, the same as the front, if you don't get this right, then it just makes it harder for you to just build the thing. Let's just move it off a touch so we can just get it where we want it. Is that where I want it? That's better, just there. Perhaps I should have aligned that up first, methinks, before I did up the nuts. Today's first mistake. As always, I show you all of everything that I do, warts and all. Same thing again, which I'm just going to spin through. Okay, we now have two of those. Next thing we need to do is to fit the hangers on the end here, or suspension stays as they call them. We're using the MB3s, which are the thicker lock nuts on these. So there will be two of those per spring. Doesn't matter which way around you put these on. It's only when you mount it to the chassis. Today's it. It's only when you mount it to the chassis they'll go on with the screws facing outwards. As before with these, be careful you don't get locked on that inner edge there. Hopefully you saw the screw drop all the way through there. You can still see the gap there, which is a clue. There you go, all the way in. You can correct that as you're pulling it down, but just to remind you of that. Obviously make sure you put these both on the same way around. I don't think it would make any difference when you mount it on the machine, because I don't think it fouls anything as I recall. There we go. This time though, we can use the screwdriver to razz them up a little bit quicker. Make sure that one goes in all the way. That locks up and still allows that to move. Oops, there's it. Quite a strong magnet on this screwdriver. There we go. That's caught on the, there, that's it. Just a slight reposition and we're in and done. That's one done. And we use again 1, 2 of these and 2 of these. Once we've done these, we'll move on to the second part of stage 12, which is to actually fit them to the chassis. While we do that, while we've got the screwdriver here. Probably slightly off camera with that. This one as well. Come here. Easier to do off the deck. Never mind. That's those two done. So the next thing we're going to do now is introduce the chassis, and we need to get it the right way up. This is with these pieces facing downwards, like so. Now we're going to mount these onto the chassis, and I'm going to put them with the screws facing outwards, like that, as per the diagram. Now these are held in place with a really long screw and the last remaining nut and two collars. There's one, there's two. Alright, so that's where the first one goes. The collars go through these plastic parts here. No need for grease or anything like that, just allows them to pivot. Then goes through a long hole which you can just find through there. Come on the right way around, make sure that's on the right way around, do that and put the nut on the other side. That wasn't difficult, even for me. We'll be ready for the diff then, which is what we start in the next stage, stage 13. So you can pull them up tight there because they don't stop those from moving. Okay, now we've got two other little parts to fit, which are these here, and these are going to be for the pivot for the actuator for the tipper. So these are quite key parts. Now these are held in place with just these small MC3 screws. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of my tea because my voice is going a bit croaky. That's better. Now, square one end round the other. It shows the square ends in both cases face upwards. Alright, and where they go in is over this hole, as well. The big pivot pin runs right the way through there, and these are the mountings for the pivot pins. So that's going to go in there like that. I'm going to need a number 2 screwdriver because these screws are a lot smaller. Square end facing upwards. Just find the hole there. One's going in. Just do number 2 now, which should be about there. There we go. Like always with these screws, if they get a bit tight, just run them backwards and forwards in the existing bit that you've threaded, and it makes them easier to go in a little bit further. That one's got in. Got in. That one's gone in. Only very small screws, they don't need a lot of tightening. There we go. That's one done. Should be able to see that. piston goes in this side again with a flat side facing upwards using these 2 screws, or 2mm screws. There's the pivot hole, so that's going to go in there. Just try and keep it square, start it. There we go. So we can find the little hole, there we go. Need to hold some pressure on the back as the screwdriver will just skate off the head otherwise. It's my poor finger feeling that. There you go. Just until you feel a bit of resistance, nothing more. And that's the 2 of those in place. Now the last job to do in stage 12 is an interesting one. Is to put 2 pieces of rubber sheet on the bottom of here, and this will be for, I suspect, for the rear diff, like a bump stop. They show you on the diagram here which rubber sheet you should use, supplied in the kit. It's only one-sided self-adhesive, and these need to be cut at 5mm. As you can see, I've already marked those. So just grab a pair of scissors and just chop these out of here. There's 1. There's 2. And there's a diagram down the bottom corner here that shows exactly where they should be fitted, and it is after these holes but before this. Let's move that over there and we can run the diagram and look at the diagram at the same time. Yep, that's showing those down there, and they literally fit just past there. So here goes. You can see why they're 5mm, it's just the width of the chassis nib. What I do with these things, just pull halfway off so you've still got something to hold on to. I'm going to turn it because I can't work at that angle. And they say literally just halfway between that and the nut. I know you can't see that what I'm doing, but if you do it this way you can still keep control of the rubber like that. Then pull the piece off that you don't want and push it down. Okay. Doesn't have to be specific, within an inch or within a millimetre. Again, just holding half of the rubber, pop it where I want first. So if you get it wrong, you're still holding a piece to be able to pull it off again. Line it up where you want it before you press it down and press it into place. And there we go. 2 pieces of rubber fitted. That finishes stage 12. This is stage 13, which is where we start to prepare all the differential gears that are going to go inside the diff cases for both rear axles. In stage 13 we have to make 2 gear sets. Rather than just put all my parts I normally do in there, I put them out separately so you can see what's involved. You've got these main crown wheels, these wheels here, these little wheels, the star that holds those little wheels, some washers, a cap and 3 little screws. And these will be the 2 shafts that go in either end, and although you don't need them until the next section, it's very useful because you put the splines in and you can turn them to make sure that the grease moves around all of the gears thoroughly, and if you've got any high spots you can investigate. On the subject of high spots, when I first built one of these I found that the the gears weren't as, sorry, the smoothness wasn't as good as I would have liked it. Got a little bit notchy sometimes. I mean, the motor was powerful enough to turn them, but it wasn't a smooth turn. And what I found, just looking a little bit closer, was these gears here can have a little bit of swarf on them. They can also be, from the castings, perhaps a little bit square on the teeth. So what I do, and you don't have to do this, but I've done it on the last dozen models that I've done, and I swear by it, is I just spend a few minutes just filing the top edges of these teeth. And I'm just going to show you what I do. And what you end up with at the end is you end up with a smooth running transmission. If you don't want to do it, fine, but there's an old adage, isn't it, what you put in you gets out, and I find that by doing this you do get a smoother running gear set. Just so I don't keep going all the way around on it, I'll just put a marker on there. Round file, that's all it is. It's not a lot of work. Just start where the marker is, and all you need to do is just go around each of these. Just take off any burr that there may be. Oops a daisy. Yes, it's a bit fiddly, but it is an aluminium casting, so they're easy enough to just file. You can actually feel the roughness, and then after 2 or 3, sorry, I'm losing my place, come back. After 2 or 3, can't hold it very well, that's better. After 2 or 3 movements, they go nice and free. So it's clearly just getting an edge off there. I'm not going to build one to show you the difference because I'll have to take it all apart again. Nearly there. It'll take that long, a couple of minutes. And there we go, that's that one done. Okay, that one's had a shaving all the way around. Just going to have a go at these. To do them much, just a little bit, that's all it needs. You can actually see them, well, you probably can't, but I can. You can see the ones that you've done, they just go a little bit shiny. I've got a round file, a triangular one. This is one of these little draper sets that I picked up from Amazon a long time ago. Not expensive at all, but worth the weight in gold. Sometimes use them for just getting just a little bit of burr off a plastic part that you don't want as well. Missed that one. There we go. I don't do these little wheels. I found I don't need to do those. It's the bigger ones here that tend to catch, if anything. Sorry if you find this a little bit tedious. I find it a bit tedious myself, but I like the end result. Sometimes sense of achievement is a great reward. It's like recently I did one an illuminated dashboard where I had to drill loads of very small holes and build a like a light box on the back to contain LEDs, and it was something like a day's work. Whereas I could have just fitted the dashboard with the stickers or transfers as they are, but boy, what a difference. Well worth doing. There we go. Those done. So let's start putting it together, shall we? Excuse me 1 second, I just need to blow my nose. I do apologise. There you go, real life video. A quick swig of my coffee at the same time. It's all real world here. So, oh yes, another place where you get burrs. This time using a flat one. In the bottom of here there's 3 casting marks, and I'd be amazed how much burr there is on those. Oh, there's like a, see, it's scratching all of that off there. You can see that one small piece that's come off there. And there's like a washer sits around here. I mean, if the burr lifts the washer, that's going to create tightness. Get rid of it. There we go. Marvellous. A little bit of grease on there. Not too much. First washer goes in. Okay, like so. Now one of these gears goes in. Now you can either put grease on top of that or on top of the gear. I tend to just put it on here. There we go. Pop that in there. Just check that runs nice and smoothly, which it does. Now this is a job where you definitely need 3 hands. This thing skates all over the place when you try and build it. 1, 2. 1 gear on. 2 gears on. Try and hold the 2 while you do the 3rd one. And if you don't drop it, I'll give you brownie points. 3 little cutouts in there that you can put it in. There we go, we're in place. Like that. Now, what we must do is make sure we put some grease on these as well. So they haven't revolved yet. You can use your tube to just carefully get them to rotate. Just until you can see there's evidence of some grease on them. Okay, like that. And I can already feel that's turning quite nice and smooth. This particular one here, we can just put a little thin coat on it. There we go. And that one will go on top of there, like that. Bit of grease around the outside of this one. Now, again, we've got the casting things in there, but they're quite recessed, so they should be alright. So just check them round. There's a bit of burr on that one. So you've got a nice flat surface for that washer to go onto. There we go. And the washer, we've already put grease on there. the washer's not going to come off, so we can turn it around and put it on that way, like so. And if you've assembled it correctly, it should quite easily go together flush like that. Now the pins that you put in need to have thread lock on them, but before I do that I'm just going to check it to make sure that it spins okay. So I'm just moving on temporarily to the next section, which shows this rod goes in there, all the way in there. Hold it together, otherwise you're going to lose your gears everywhere, and turn it. And look, I can easily turn that by hand, no problem at all, in both directions. Can I feel any tight spots? No. There you go. That's what you need to do. Obviously if you have got a tight spot, you can take it apart at this point and fix it. Right. We now need to use a little bit of thread lock. And I might just put it in the holes. Because there's no plastic involved here, it's metal to metal. Come on, in you go. That's a little bit more than I think I needed. That one won't come apart, will it? Always wipe it off afterwards. Favourite little tool of mine, because you could spend ages winding up using a conventional Allen key. All I did was sawed a section off the bottom and glued it into one of the little plastic pieces that Tamiya give you, so it just works a bit like a screwdriver. That's what I need to do for the those bigger nuts, isn't it? So rather than have to use that Tamiya spanner thing, which is okay, but it's fiddly to use. 1, 2, 3. Obviously once I've got these in, I'll use the other Allen key to just tighten them down a bit. But they don't need to be that tight. You've got the thread lock on them, remember. 1, 2, 3. Have another quick check, see if the gears are okay. Now it's been pulled down. So you can hear that. I'll put it close to the microphone on the camera. You can hear that that actually just revolves nice and gently.